Hello and welcome to Minisode 37.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what we're talking about actually because we've got some hot news, some brand
You
new
don't
news.
care what we're talking about.
Two pieces of news.
That's a bit
We
rude.
don't really do news that often.
No, we don't. What are we doing news for?
First piece of news is that Guaz's POV came out today.
Which was yesterday, if you're listening on the day of release.
So if you haven't seen it already, it's the brand new RMC coming to Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Looks good.
Yep. We're never going to get there for a while.
Yeah, for
but
a while.
Oh well.
But yeah, no, I mean, it looks like an RMC, unbelievably.
That's funny.
The same, set of elements and inversions. Nothing crazy, but obviously it's going to be a very, very good ride, just because they always are. Second piece of news, which we're recording this at 4:25 p.m. And this tweet came out from Amanda Thompson at 4:21 p.m.
No way. So this is like fresh news.
Yep, and it says Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Valhalla, Brave the Adventure, 2022.
Oh.
So if you don't,
I thought you were going to say it was being shut down.
No. So if you don't know,
Valhalla's rubbish, and
Valhalla was closed for the 2020 season for refurbishment, or was meant to be, obviously.
Yeah, but it's not just refurbishment, is it? It's like fixing it.
Yeah,
because it's basically broke.
Yeah. So Valhalla is an intimate boat ride, which, as Zoe says, is very dodgy but also very good. For some reason,
it's good but bad at the same time.
Yeah. For some reason, it's ranked from the Golden Ticket Award as the best water ride in the world.
Yeah.
And I can see it, but I also can't see it. Like, the amount of effects in there when they work is fantastic, but half the time they don't work.
Yeah, but it's like,
and you get very wet.
If you write down everything Valhalla has and bullet point it, right? It seems like amazing, and yeah, it's the best one. But when you look at it,
yeah, I know,
like,
it's different.
It's disgusting.
So they're refurbing it, hopefully to improve both its reliability, in terms of it just working, like staying up, no downtime or limited downtime, and then the effects working, but then also to modernize the ride because it's very outdated in parts. There's a nice black bin bag tunnel, which is boring, and they probably won't change it though. Then it opened in 2021. Obviously, COVID happened, and most parks that plan to open a ride or, a refurb or whatever in 2021 have now pushed it back to 2022. Or, sorry, rides that are meant to open this year were opening next year, and Blackpool, the rides that are meant to open next year, they're pushing back to the year after that.
Right.
Which I think is fair enough. I guess they just haven't had the chance to do anything to it. It's probably some sort of huge project. But there you go.
Or I don't know, maybe they stopped doing it in March and now they've not got enough money to carry on with it for a while.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So there you go, 2022. Anyway, what we're talking about?
We're talking about money. We're talking about basically the question of, do you think the ticket pricing this year was good? Because obviously there's thing going on. Some parks have changed their ticket pricing systems. They've had like all the annual pass holders either extended or moved or whatever, and then the system of booking stuff was different. So like you had to pay £1 to reserve your stuff. So like all of that kind of thing. Was it good? Is the question.
Good in what sense? Did it work?
Did it work?
Was it fair?
Was it fair? Like, those two questions.
So, I mean, parks took different kind of stances, right, with what was going on. For example, the Merlin parks, at least in the UK, and I think it was the same in mainland Europe, but I'm not 100% sure. They reopened, and you had to book a slot, right? You couldn't just turn up.
Yeah.
Some parks in Europe and I think in the world, you still could turn up.
I don't know how though, because capacity, I guess you just have to turn people away if it was full.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a silly thing.
But yeah, the UK Merlin parks, you had to reserve your spot. So you either did that by buying a ticket online.
The normal way.
way. Or if you were a season pass or Merlin annual pass holder, you paid £1 to reserve your space.
Yeah. Which is meant to be a deterrent of like, oh, let's make sure we go because we don't want to lose out on £1, isn't it?
But it works.
It's a pound though.
But we found that it works. Because what...
Did it though?
Yeah, because what happened was that system was in place all through the first 2-3 months after these parks reopened in July in the UK.
Yeah.
And then Merlin decided to scrap the idea of having a pound in mid-September.
Because it worked so well.
What do you mean because it... I don't know why they got rid of it.
Because they were trusting people to actually show up.
Yeah. And after mid-September, literally days after, all of the weekends for Alton Towers were booked.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to pay, so people were just booking them.
Yeah.
So it worked. The pound thing worked. I
just find that a bit mad because, if it was £5, then yeah, I'd be like, But if it was £1, I'd be like, oh, let's just book it anyway. It doesn't matter if we go or not.
Yeah, but I think it's people were chained kind of just, I'll book that weekend and this weekend, And if you start to do that
booking
loads,
multiple ones.
Yeah, if you start to do that loads, then, the pounds would rack up.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially for a family of, 4.
Yeah.
And there's downsides, right? So the downside is if you are a family of 4, you have to pay an extra £4 to get into the park.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you actually do get to get into the park.
And you get to leave your house.
Yeah.
This year.
So people weren't happy with that pound system. Potton's Park had that pound, or didn't have that pound system, right? And then went to the pound system because they found that people were booking the slots and not turning up.
Yeah.
So they went to the pound system. All of the annual pass holders got really salty and annoyed.
Yeah.
But if it works, it works. I think people are irrational and you have to tame them somehow. And I feel like a fee that is £1, even though, yeah, people said in the comments rightly, if you go to that park every weekend with a family of, 4, then you would start to pay all of this additional money. But,
there's no other way around it, really.
If they didn't do that, they might not get to go.
Yeah. And also, obviously this year's been, really tough on the parks, so they want to be having a fully booked thing to the max capacity they're allowed for social distancing.
For sure.
So if you're booking it, not going, like they did at Polton's, they're missing out on someone else who could have gone and spent money at the park, and you're just, not rocking up.
Yeah.
So that's why they're obviously trying to, keep to capacity but under the old limits. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Other parks at different stances. I don't really know what went on in America, to be fair. I can only really give examples of what happened in Europe. But Blackpool Pleasure Beach took a different example. Again, you had to have a ticket or book a slot to get into the park. But they were only letting people book a week in advance.
Okay.
So if you wanted to go, then...
you had to wait until it opened. That's a good idea because...
And it worked. It definitely worked.
Yeah, because, things are so uncertain at the minute. Even now, you don't know what's going to happen from one week to the next with lockdown and that. So if you booked it well in advance and then when you got to that date, you were in a lockdown, you'd be annoyed because you lost your pound or whatever.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. But, I think different strategies worked better than others. Blackpool's did work for them, but then Blackpool doesn't really get the attendance that some other parks get, so I don't know whether that would scale up in the same way for other parks. And I do think the pound system worked, even though people didn't like it. But yeah, I think it was fair, as you said, for parks to want to make sure that everyone is going who said they would be going.
Yeah, for sure.
Rather than, having 20% of people who said they were going to go not actually turn up.
Yeah.
And that 20% could have been allocated to someone else who would have turned up, and obviously that would have been additional money for the park, and then that's all good in the long run, isn't it?
But even with the pound thing, they're still going to get some people that aren't going to turn up because, for example, but if you get COVID and you have to self-isolate the week before, you're not going to know that in advance.
Yeah, but then the park should have been smart about that, and actually whatever the number that they're allowed in the park is, they should have inflated it. This is what airlines do for flights.
Yeah, to predict how many people are not going to come.
Yeah, and then, that...
Which they probably have done, but, over time they had to get new numbers for this year because it probably doesn't look like it did last year,
Yeah, I mean, they would have got new data anyway.
Yeah.
Because they would have started at less than the capacity that they're allowed to open at anyway, as a kind of trial.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that side is fair. And then I guess the other side is... there's a few other sides. like just price of tickets in 2020, and then also the amount of pass holders they let in compared to
non-pass
yeah,
holders.
people who are buying tickets on the day. So it was a kind of a big thing that at least in the UK or the Merlin parks, for example, pass holder tickets, so like reservations for pass holders, sold out, but you could still buy tickets on the day.
Yeah.
Not on the day, but you could still buy £35 tickets to get into the park.
Yeah.
So people are like, well, there's obviously space to get in, so why can't pass holders take that space? But then you got to think, like, you're a pass holder, you aren't paying, to get in again. I know you've already paid, right? But I don't know.
What do you mean you're not paying to get in again?
As in, once you have your pass, you're not giving the park any money except for what you spend inside the park.
Yeah.
People who are not pass holders are spending money to get in and then money again in the park.
So you mean they should prioritise non-pass holders because they're more...
They give more
lucrative.
revenue. Yeah, for sure. In these trying times.
Yeah.
And it's very likely, probably that pass holders have been pass holders for a while.
Yeah.
Or will be pass holders in the future, so they can get their money's worth last year or the next year. And
to say in a month's time, like, you could just go again when you've got another free day, you know?
Yeah, you just got to look out. But yeah, I mean...
But I see what they mean. They could have done a thing where, like, it was just whoever bought the next ticket, either on a pass holder or a non-pass holder, got into one of the slots that are available.
I think you would have found that a lot of pass holders would take up most of the slots.
Exactly. And then there'd be no slots left for anyone who'd wanted to just rock up.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to have a balance somehow. But it's quite tricky to, like, change, like, predict how many people... And it probably changes every weekend anyway, But...
I think it's a lot of new stuff for the parks to kind of navigate around.
Yeah.
New situations, and ultimately a lot of the situations were lose-lose. There weren't, with like the pound system, it's a lose-lose either way. You say you put a fee in to stop people from just chain buying loads of slots. Obviously, people have to then pay the fee, but the slots aren't all reserved.
Yeah.
Or you don't do that, and your slots are all reserved, but people don't have to pay the fee. So there's always a downside. I think no matter kind of how parks went about it in terms of both the ratio of pass holders to normal ticket holders or how they dealt with reservations, there was always a negative side.
Yeah. What about extending, or in my case, I have a monthly annual pass with Merlin, and they froze all of those ones, so we didn't pay for the months when we were in lockdown and the parks weren't open.
So there was a few things that happened. Some parks said that they would just allow season pass holders to come next year as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the best option, really.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So if you had a 2020 season pass, you also now have a 2021 season pass.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, for example, they did one of two things. You could either defer your pass to next year. So, if you had a 2020 pass, you could give it up and have a 2021 pass instead. Or you could get a discount on a 2021 pass based on how much you missed, how much of the season was missed in 2020.
Yeah.
So say you paid 100 for your 2020 pass, you'd only pay 50 for your 2021 pass.
Yeah.
Because you missed half the season because of everything that happened. Fair. I think that's pretty fair options.
Yeah.
Merlin did a very similar thing in a way. There's two ways you can buy a Merlin annual pass. You either buy it outright or you pay monthly, as Zoe said. Merlin added additional month to everyone's pass that they paid for up front, so that if your pass ended, say, in April, your pass now ends in, I don't know, like October, November, December time instead. So all the months that were missed have been added on. Similarly, for people who pay monthly like Zoe, then it was frozen so that they didn't have to pay for the months that the parks were closed, which again is fair.
Yeah.
So I think most parks handled it really well. I didn't really hear about any parks that didn't handle it very well.
Yeah.
I think people were quite fair with everything that went on. Especially Merlin. Everyone usually is like, oh, Merlin, they're money grabbers, whatever. But I think what they did was pretty fair.
Yeah. And I think they want to keep their customers, though. Like, all the parks just want to keep their annual pass people so they come back in the future, so they can, keep getting money from everyone in the future.
Yeah. I think the final thing to talk about is ticket prices just generally.
Yeah. So did ticket prices go up or down?
Depends where you looked. Old Towers, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, no, stayed the same really. Thorpe Park, hell yeah.
Did they go up by any chance?
They did.
Fab.
Like before, you could get a Thorpe Park ticket on some weekends for 28 quid.
Yeah.
That's online. Old Towers is about 34 online. So you save a significant amount going online. But then this year, Thorpe Park was £40.
What?
So Thorpe Park
online?
It was more expensive than
You
Towers.
are joking me.
But then it's like, well, people want to go. It's supply and demand, isn't it?
In the case of Thorpe Park, I feel like they always had customers waiting because their demographic is like teenagers who aren't really affected by the virus. So it's not like they don't have a lot of vulnerable customers or customers with kids or something. Do you see what I mean? Like they're the people who are going to just carry on paying to go to Thorpe Park.
Well, this is it, right? If you've got less supply, then your demand will go up unless you increase the price, and then your demand goes back down.
Yeah.
So they obviously wanted to get the most out of the situation. And again, is that the scummy thing to do?
Or is it they need the money?
Well,
which everybody needs the money, exactly. So...
They obviously do need the money. Again, I think it's a balance, isn't it? Is it fair to increase it by that much? How much is fair? Don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Again, it was difficult for everyone. I don't think anyone had a perfect run in terms of anything that went on. Every park handled it differently, some better than others, some aspects better than others. Nothing was perfect, but we got there in the end, I guess.
Yeah. Let's see what everyone else was saying, because I asked what everyone thought of the pricing this year. Jojo Hendricks says Hansa Park made 2021 free for 2020 pass holders. Can't beat that, I'd agree.
That's definitely the best option.
Yeah.
The Real Coat Man says Thorpe Park definitely raised ticket prices too much.
Gardaland Meme says Gardaland did a €50 annual pass valid for 2020 and 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is an amazing
really good
deal.
Yeah.
So if you weren't an annual pass holder, you could get 2 years for €50.
It was basically, I think it would have been €50 for 2020. So it's pretty much...
Okay, so then you'd get the extra year added on.
It's pretty much what Hansa Park did by just giving everyone who bought a 2021 also 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good.
Bath Salt Pudding says, I think prices should remain the same considering lots of money was lost for the parks. However, people on low money may not be able or willing to pay for the current prices. I think that's the problem, isn't it? Like, literally everyone in the world is struggling, not just the businesses. So it's like, if you put your prices up, you're probably going to lose out on some customers now because everyone's struggling.
Julius says, I think that next year will be too busy as people have season passes, so they were too cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be an interesting thing to see, isn't it?
Everything's going to be so busy next year because people just want to get back out there, or whenever we get back to normal. Cleo Does Coaster says, I think the normal price tickets were really good, but £10 per maze at Fright Nights is too much. Did they put it up, or is it normally £10?
That was... Thorpe Park never usually make people pay for a maze, so that was the
wow.
first time in ages that they did.
And they made it £10 each?
10 quid, yeah.
I'm not sure that's a great starting price.
Tommy says it makes sense they stayed the same at parks as they need the money, as they've not made so much over the season.
Yeah. But then TS Minesweep says, hopefully less because everything kind of sucks with all the limitations. Which is true because you're essentially, a lot of the time, some of the rides weren't open and your experience is very different compared to normal. Because you can't do shows and I don't know what else is shut. Well, obviously all the scare mazes were basically different. Everything was very different experience, so it wasn't like normal. So you're paying the same price, but the experience you're getting isn't as immersive.
I don't know. I feel like it depends on the park. If you're at Disney parks, I think, the kind of value of money you got definitely went down. But maybe more traditional, just theme, thrill parks. Was it really that different going on rides? Did you have to wait that much longer than normal? No,
but I mean more things like if you had kids, then you couldn't watch shows.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. It's only...
depends on what you're doing and where you are.
If you just went there to ride rides and go on roller coasters, I don't think it really made much of a difference.
Yeah.
So the lines were longer. Well, no, the lines were shorter physically, but obviously took longer because of the processes. But in the end, they seemed to average out the same anyway.
Yeah.
The amount of people that the amount of less people there were in the park counteracted the fact that everything was a bit slower. So I don't know.
It's an impossible situation to deal with. So I feel like just them opening in itself is like great, you know.
For sure.
Considering everything that was going on.
Well, we'll see what happens with 2021 and the opening of 2021.
Hopefully.
What's gonna happen with that? Is it all gonna be the same? Is it all gonna be slightly different? What your guess is? What do you think?
Depends on whether things are starting to go back to normal or not. But I think because this year they've managed to figure out how to work socially distanced, it will just be a case of like everybody knows to bring their mask now. Everyone knows to socially distance. Do you know what I mean? There's kind of like a new normal. I know that's the phrase everyone uses, but like they know what they're doing now. So they could all just open on normal opening days, but with the measures.
I think it will. I think they'll stay the same at the start.
Yeah.
And then if they can, depending, as you said, on what happens over the next year, slowly start to phase things out. Yeah. I think it makes more sense to start with the familiar.
Yeah.
You know, start the same way you ended.
Yeah.
And then slowly get rid of them rather than
dive straight in
with something new. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Who knows? Before we go, we're talking about money, right? Let's talk about money in a different sense. We got new merch.
That was like such an awkward segue. Give us money instead.
There you go. We have some new fantastic merch on the store.
We do.
Some really cool stuff. People have been loving it. Zoe designed some enthusiast greetings cards, Christmas cards.
Yeah.
So if you have some enthusiast friends who like theme parks, like roller coasters, but you can never find the right card to give them.
Now you can.
Some of them have Wicker Man on the front, or one is even about season passes.
Yeah.
So people have been loving that.
Or you can just frame it yourself as a design. Who knows?
We've got new pin badges.
Yes, we have a gold pin badge.
A gold shiny pin badge.
It's so
glittery and shiny. So that if that floats your boat, grab that. We also have a black, very sleek pin badge. I'm a big fan of that one. I think
it's a posh one.
I think the white was my favourite, but now it's the black. That's definitely up there. And the new kid on the block, the big boy, is the brand new manufacturer prints. So me and Zoe have designed some different pieces of artwork that display track types from different manufacturers. So you've got box track, you've got tubular track, so B&M, Arrow's old track, you've even got RMC's track type, with a few statistics below. Very coaster bot, very clean, very, nice, and everything is reasonably priced.
Yes. You can get the set or you can get one. They look really cool on a wall. We've got some framed.
Yeah.
You can see them in the photos, but yeah, we're going to put them up on the wall.
And if you think, Harry, what about shipping? Shipping. It's always a good question. So shipping in the UK is free, man. It's free. It doesn't cost you a penny. And many people from America are always like, oh, shipping. Oh, shipping's always expensive.
Yeah.
And it is, usually if you're American, or shipping things out of America, but
not
our shipping prices to America, reasonable, man. They're reasonable. You don't have to pay $15 or something. It's like £2.
Yeah.
£2 to ship some pins to you. Or if you spend over a certain amount, it's free anyway.
Just have a look on there.
coasterbot.com/store.
Yeah.
If you're a nerd like we are, then boy, you might love them. Did I sell it yet?
Did I sell it yet?